All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. We are live. We are going to pick up where we left off last week. I do have some updates that I did offline over the weekend to go over as well, just to kind of move things forward. It's mostly kind of boring stuff, but we do have some visual updates, as you may have noticed here as well. So we'll jump into that in just a second, but before we do, I do want to just take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our highest tier elite partner, that is Javier Olazaran. That's the highest tier of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships, followed by our partners, Grabolis Inc. and Matt Oscard. That's the next tier of subscription there, followed by the list of supporters you see here listed on the screen. They are a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for that support. It's greatly appreciated and helps me cover the cost of things associated with running this channel. So things like software licenses, hosting fees, eventually, getting things like music and other assets paid for, things like that. So thank you again for that. And of course, a big thank you to all of you guys, the viewers, whether you're catching us here live on the YouTube side, or if you're catching us on the Twitch side, or if you're just catching the VOD after the fact. Without you guys, the viewers, this channel and this project would not exist. So thank you guys very much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Singy over on the YouTube side, how's it going? Good to see you. And Apotham, good to see you as well. You're first over there on the Twitch side. Hope all is well. Okay, so as you may or may not have noticed if you were here in the last stream, I have done some updates based on some of the things that we kind of discovered in the previous stream. So we kind of had this old school sort of pixelated look for the UI elements, and that's kind of what I was going for. I thought that would be fine, but we kind of ran into some issues with that in the last stream that sort of led us to the conclusion that that's not necessarily the case. So I went ahead and worked on a new atlas for that, or I should say an updated atlas with higher resolution graphics for the buttons and things like that. So we'll take a look at that. And then also I did, just to kind of quickly list off some things here, I completely revamped the build system so that all of the individual components are individually buildable, as well as I was able to eliminate some dependencies of the build system. Things like I don't think PowerShell is actually required on Windows anymore, and some of the various third-party utilities are no longer needed. So we'll kind of go over that as well. And then last thing is I actually removed a lot of the hard-coded stuff that was in the UI system and allowed it to be configurable, and so we'll go over that as well. So those are kind of the big points. Pork Nachos, good to see you, man. Long time no speak. How have you been? Hope everything's going well. Things are going well for me over here. I appreciate you asking. I hope you're doing well. Pale Blue Zebra, good to see you as well. Hello from the future, from us VOD viewers. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, glad to have you here. Currently on a 7-stream streak. That's awesome. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Let's see. Been doing the series, but got stuck at the point where you were doing a render loop to clean out the screen. I'm using Linux and all of the settings done for the OS. For this OS, we're working. Okay. It sounds like you got pretty decently far into it then. That's good. Yeah, obviously we're quite a bit further along than that at this point, but yeah, at some point it stops being a tutorial and it's a bit more like a live dev session / devlog, I guess you could say. Bedtime stream. Yeah, fair enough. I can respect that. Let's see. Vulcan was complaining about VKQs belonging to multiple instances at once. That's kind of strange because we only ever set up one instance. So I'm not sure what's going on there with, I don't know if you've got maybe a driver issue or something, but that's That's very strange because there should only be one instance. So I'm wondering if you've got something going on in your code base, perhaps. New gig is awesome. Pork nachos. I was actually thinking about you the other day, and I was like, man, I really need to message him. But of course, the old ADHD mind, I guess, got the best of me. Doing good, working on adding screen space rendering,
You dingus.
and decided to dingus it up. No, well, there you go. So, dingus-oriented programming right there. I'm all right with that. Speaking of dingus, thank you for the follow, Sosa. Appreciate that. But not transferring my column major matrices into row major matrices in one spot. Oof. Yeah, at one point my math library had about, I think, a third of the functions were wrong. Because instead of doing column major, I was doing row major in some spots. Boy, did that mess me up for a while. Yes, pork nachos, I agree. We need to catch up for sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'll Discord me and or I'll Discord you tomorrow if you forget. But yeah, I look forward to hearing about it. Okay, so since the last stream, there's a couple things I want to briefly touch on. I think I'll do the build system first because that's like the least exciting, right? We'll just get that out of the way. And I'm only going to very quickly touch on that, right? Because all of this stuff is actually already available on the repo. So what I did was for each one of these sub-projects, let me actually collapse all of this stuff so that we can, well, maybe not that far, so we can discuss this a little bit further. And I'm only just going to open up just a couple of these things, right? A couple more. All right. Okay. All right. So before what we had was we had this sort of combination of build scripts, which we still kind of have, but they play less of a role than they used to, that would sort of coordinate how the makefile was called and would sort of allow us to step through the build process as needed, passing a whole bunch of parameters to the makefile. And that was okay. It worked all right, but there were lots of issues with it, especially when it came to various components of the entire system needing very different parameters for their build. And so it got to the point where it was kind of hard to manage, and I was passing a lot of parameters, and it just really needed to be rethought. And so I've completely changed the way that this builds now. And we have sort of make files that are, in fact, I need to get rid of this one. This is the old one. We have make files at every level now. So we have one here at the Illumina level, which you guys won't have access to yet. But in the Kohi repository, there is one as well. So what this one does is it essentially reaches down to make files in each one of these individual sort of sub-projects, if you will, that exist. And these contain all of the stuff that's necessary to build that particular project, right? So yes, there's some overlap. Yes, there's some duplication, but it's a lot cleaner of a setup, I feel like, to have it set up this way. And it's a little bit easier for me to manage. So what this also means is that we don't have to build everything from the top level anymore. We can actually just change directory into any of these subcomponents and build them individually if we want to. Which we didn't have the capability to do before. And so we've gone ahead and set that up. And so that it basically just recurses down through that folder structure and builds things accordingly. The other minor thing that we changed is there's this MISC folder in addition to bin. And this exists in the Kohi level stuff, so the engine level stuff, as well as up here at the Illumina level. And so when I set up templates, this Illumina is basically going to be a little bit like one of those templates. But what the MISC includes is the utilities that we need as part of the build process, right? So our version gen is here, and our CF gen, which is basically the compile flags generator. We now have a C program that does that. And on Windows, there's one more. There is KTime, which emulates the time utility on Unix operating systems. And so the idea is that we put any sort of applications that are going to help our build process in MISC, right? And so for right now, there's just 2 of them, but I suspect we're going to have a lot more in the future. And so we put those there. That way, whenever we wipe out bin, we're not wiping out those 2. And so we can essentially build the utilities required for build once, and then we don't have to build them anymore. Once they're built, and we can move on. And then everything else goes into bin as before. And so obviously there's a little bit of a optimization there. And so that all gets copied up one further level to Illumina, which uses all of that stuff as a submodule. And so that is sort of the new build system. I've gone ahead and in the make file itself detailed a little bit of how it works and what to run and so forth. So I'm going to work on setting this up a little bit more, but the idea is that I want to have the ability to essentially have the make file set up all of our dependencies and everything that it needs to do to build this, right? And eventually that's going to include installing dependencies that are missing, outside of course, the make utility itself, but I digress. So whenever we build now, essentially what happens is instead of having all that stuff in these build scripts, if we take a look at build debug, which is the one that we call all the time, essentially what we do is we say, hey, if there's no MISC directory, then we need to run make setup. And make setup scaffolds a whole bunch of folders, sets up those and compiles those utilities, and so forth. And then otherwise, we make all debug, and we wrap that in a call to time. And time basically tells us how long it takes to do all of that. So if I run this now, which is going to cause the application to poop itself because there's some issues there, but we can see here how long it actually takes us to build now. So we've got some sort of measurable way to sort of monitor that, right? And so Windows does not have that time utility. And so there is a utility in here to handle that as well. So that's all under utils. And so we have one for CFGen, one for KTime, and one for version gen, right? And so this is a lot cleaner of a setup, and I'm super happy with that. So that's as far as I want to go into that. I just kind of wanted to update you guys on some of the things that were done there. And we're going to be improving on the build system as we go forward. Somebody needs to write a good sane C build system. Yeah, I'm working on it actually. I'm just not doing it on stream. So you'll note that I have another submodule here called kbuild, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet. But yeah, eventually a lot of this stuff is going to be wrapped up into kbuild, and then we won't have to worry about it. It's going to be cross-platform. And it'll be completely responsible for pulling all the dependencies it needs, which we should have relatively few, but you do have things like the compiler and whatnot that have to be installed. And this will be able to make sure that that happens cross-platform. Psycode, good to see you. Coffee Lava, good to see you as well. How you doing, buddy? From Link, good to see you over on the YouTube side. Let's see, could it be that you released that video in the area when Vulkan API was 1.2 and me having 1.4 caused some kind of bug? I don't think it would cause a bug on that level. And I wish I knew how to pronounce your name, but I don't. So I'm just going to call you X because that's the first thing that I see. But yeah, I don't think it's that. So I would double check your logic against what is in the code base. Because there should not be any issue with, shared instances across, or I should say the queue being shared across instances, because we only do one instance. So I'm not sure where that issue is coming from. Okay. Spiro, good to see you as well, buddy. How have you been? Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the UI. So we had a whole bunch of hard-coded crap in the UI, specifically around like the buttons. We had a whole bunch of stuff where like the atlas positions were like hard-coded and stuff. That's all gone. There's still a couple of things in here where we set reasonable defaults for like the width of a button, but all those things can be overridden. And so what we have now is we actually have a, let's see, we actually have a KSIN file that defines this stuff for us, allows us to configure it, right? So this is a what I'm loosely calling an atlas file, but it's really just a KSIN file. And it contains a few different things here. So what the image asset name and the package that image asset resides in for the actual atlas asset itself, and then the definitions for each control as to how that atlas is used. So we've got one in here for the panel, one in here for the button, and then within that button it's got the normal mode, the hover mode, and the press mode, and each of those have their extents and corner sizes and all that stuff configured. And then the text box has got one as well. So as we expand our different controls, we'll have more and more of these entries being added in here. But the good part about this is that I could just edit this and I don't have to recompile the engine. I can just change the things in here and get them directly from the atlas itself. Speaking of which, we have that here. So I've done quite a bit of work in terms of, let me zoom this to 100% so you guys can actually see what that looks like non-zoomed in. So I've done quite a lot of work in making some higher resolution controls, right? Just to make them look a lot better than they did before. There's still some remnants of the old stuff in here that I still have to clear out and replace. But for now, we've basically handled our standard buttons, which is here. So this is the 4 states. So we have the normal state here, the pressed state here, the hover state here, and the disabled state, which we don't actually have in code, but I needed to get that in here because at some point we need the ability to disable buttons from being pressed. And then we have the text box here. So the normal state and the focus state. And then, let's see. This stuff, let's see, what was I going to use these for? I don't think I was done with these yet. I was going to use that for something. I can't remember what it was. It might have wind up being maybe the thumb button or something. I can't remember what I was going to use these for. So ignore those for now. We have some checkboxes in here. So we have 2 different states in here. Actually, we have 4 different states. Which I just realized one of them is not really all that clear as to what it is. So let's change that. So we have our normal state here. And then this is supposed to be sort of the disabled but unchecked state, right? So this should probably be, we should probably do like a, I guess we could try a brightness contrast on that. And basically what we want to do is we want to just sort of gray it out, right? So we really want to go, I guess we should probably go a little bit darker maybe. That might be too dark. Or maybe we just do transparency, right? Maybe that would be sufficient for this. So let's see, do we have a way to do that? I don't remember if there is a way to do that in here. Transparency. All right. Apparently not. I'm just going to try, let's try, hue saturation is probably not going to do it, but maybe. Nope, not saturation, hue saturation. Because I think we can actually use, the lightness on this is a little bit better. So yeah, we can kind of just scale that back a little bit. And then we should probably also do, we should probably also do that for this one, because that's a little bit too light now. right? So we'll just bring that down a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be better. Okay, so we have sort of a normal mode. Normal mode would be like unchecked, right? So I guess unchecked, but enabled, unchecked, disabled, and then checked, enabled, checked, disabled, right? And then we have over here a couple of buttons that we haven't used yet. So this is for the scroll bar, is what all this stuff is for. So we have the up arrow in its various states and the down arrow in its various states. And then this is what I'm going to use probably for the thumb control. And so, you have your normal state, your pressed state, the hover state, and then the disabled state. So those are going to be some of the things that we're going to take a look at tonight. We are going to have the ability to set... we're basically going to have like custom button types is the way that I'm thinking about it. And the custom button types will just use different atlas coordinates. So we're going to add those as well. And so that's kind of the plan for tonight anyways. And so to put all of this together, to show you what this looks like so far. In fact, before I do that, let me just, since I made a change there, I'm just going to export that one more time and then run my import process for it, for the UI. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and launch this. And so when we load up the editor, it looks a lot better, I think. The graphics are a lot more high res, easier to see and reason about what's going on the screen. And so, when you focus the text boxes, it's a little bit more obvious, a little bit more clear. Same with the drop-down console. I think it looks a lot better and it functions a lot neater. The tree also, I went ahead and made some updates to that. So instead of using like the what is it, the greater than sign, and or V for like trying to make an arrow or pointing to the right or down, I decided to just switch to plus and minus because that just kind of makes sense, right? So the button's a little bit smaller, and so when I click this, it'll change to a minus, right, as we expand those things. And then, of course, we have the scroll bar that shows up once this starts to overflow. So, in the last stream, kind of where we left off, and this is where we're going to pick up, is we have the ability to, I can actually scroll the mouse wheel. It doesn't move very fast, but I can do it. But we can just kind of keep scrolling past where we should be able to kind of scroll, right? Which is not super helpful. So what we need is the ability to bound that. So let's see. Let me bring this up real quick. Let's see. Why does this look a little bit... Okay, fine. All right, so we have... let's go with... I guess let's go with blue for our first color, right? So we have our content, or our sort of wrapper area, right? And then also we have our content within that, which I'm going to represent with orange. All right, and the content can exceed the bounds of what we're doing. So let me, just to illustrate this a little bit, let me put some content in here. I don't know, I guess I can just draw some boxes. Doesn't really matter, right? Okay. So if we take all of this stuff, can I actually... I thought there was a way to parent this. Let's see, where was that? I thought you could anyways. I don't know. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'll just select it all. All right, so the idea is that as you scroll, right, you're basically moving this interior piece back and forth, right, is what's happening. And so the thing that you have to bear in mind is that you have to have limitations. You should only be able to scroll down or up as far as, this when it hits the top. And then when you scroll down, you should only be able to go to here, wherever that content ends, right? So let's say you've got a whole bunch of these things. I'm just going to put them in here very loosely. Whatever, doesn't really matter, right? The size of the content is arbitrary, who cares? Ultimately, what you need to do is you need to stop here and you need to stop here. And so the way to do that is you basically take the difference, right? So that's this entire section here. And this difference is the maximum amount that you can scroll. So when you figure out what that difference is, your minimum amount that you can scroll would be 0, and the maximum amount would be whatever this difference is. And that's obviously going to recalculate every single time you do something. What this also provides is to know how far you're scrolled within that container. You can then take the offset that if you've scrolled. Let me see if I can grab these without the outer one. Right, so if you've scrolled up a little bit like this, right, you can take this offset and compare it to the total amount of overage that you have of content, and that will tell you your percentage as to how far scrolled you are within that container. And so we can use both of those pieces of data to figure out how to position the scroll bar, right? So I guess this editor's scroll bar doesn't even have the up and down buttons, which is kind of dumb. But that's essentially what we're going to work out just now. All right, so if I go to scrollable, let me close this, by the way, and these do work, by the way. I should probably increment that a bit, but all right, so if we go to scrollable, essentially what we do is we have, oh, that's right, we have a hack in here, don't we? I forgot about that. We should probably fix that too. But for now, we're not going to do that, right? We'll leave that in there and we'll get the scrolling part fixed first. So decrement Y on clicked and increment Y on clicked. Let's go ahead and up these amounts by like 20, right? We'll set them to 20. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's set them to 40, right? And the reason I'm choosing 40 is because that is the item height of our tree, right? We should probably make that configurable, but for right now, I'm not going to worry about it. So when we scroll Y, should we, let's see. So that's essentially giving us 1 unit at a time. So we should probably increase that a little bit too. And so let's go ahead and increase that to, let's increase that by a factor of 5, right? And then when we go to do the actual scroll, this is where we have to pay attention. So right now we're just doing just a hard translate, which is fine, right? We still have to do that translation, but we have to clamp that, right? So how do we know actually what to clamp it to, right? We have to figure out what this difference is here. And so what we're going to do is whenever we do the set content size, we are actually already, let's see, we are already doing a check here, scrollable can scroll Y, right? And this actually contains what we need. So this right here is ultimately what we need. So I'm just going to grab all of this real quick. I don't think I need all of this, but I digress. So when we set the content size, and actually I think we're going to have to, there's a couple more places we're going to have to do this. So I think I'm actually going to, I think I might split this out into a different function. Why do we have can scroll X? Wait, no, that's can scroll X. And that's scroll X. Okay. So let's put this here for now. We're going to do static void, and then recalculate. Let's see. We're going to recalculate a few things. We're going to calculate the difference in the content area versus the pane. And then, we're going to essentially calculate scrollability and that kind of stuff. So what do we want to call that? Recalculate. I guess we could just say recalculate on actually. So we could say recalculates. Let's do KUI state. Oops. Wow, that is not what I wanted, but okay. Let me paste what I have copied first. So we don't want that. We just want this. So self. Let's see. We could probably actually just do, instead of having to retrieve this, because we're already going to have this wherever this is called. Let's just do that, right? So typed control is going to be the scrollable control. Actually, we should probably just do that, right? Because we can get the base from that. Okay, so from there, we do need to get the container base, and then we need to figure out the overage, right? So we need some sort of property in, in here. We need a couple things, I guess. We need an F32. And we'll say this is going to be max offset. Right? And then we're also going to have an F32. Oh, you know what? This should probably actually be vector 2s. So we're going to say max offset. And then we're going to say vec2 offset. Right? Because remember, we can scroll in the X or the Y. So we'll have those to store that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say typed control max offset is going to be equal to, and then here we want, let's see, we are going to want base bounds height, so we're going to want typed control dot base bounds height. And then we're going to be setting the Y on this. So we're going to take the bounds height and subtract from that. Let me think about this for a second. The container height. No, we want to take container height and subtract bounds height from it. All right, so what that's going to give us is if container height is greater than our bounds height, then that's going to give us a positive number. Otherwise, it's going to be a negative. However, we never want to allow a negative offset. So we're going to, let's see, K max this. and we're going to say 0 and that, right? So we never want to allow for a negative offset because that means you can scroll too far up. And then we do the same thing for X, right? So we have bounds width and bounds height. Okay, so that's going to be that. And that alone actually can tell us whether or not we have the ability to scroll. So I suppose we could actually simplify this function. Let me copy these real quick. So can scroll y is literally going to be return max offset y is greater than 0. Right? And if it is, then you can scroll, which means we don't have to get that anymore. Great. Okay. And then, of course, the can scroll x is going to be the same kind of deal. So we'll take that and put that here. X. Okay. So there's a couple things to consider here. On mouse wheel, well, actually, no, we don't want that yet. We want set content size. So on set content size, we should actually move all of this stuff to recalculate. So that we do it all in one place. Okay, so scrollable set content size. We're going to do recalculate. And to that, we are going to pass states and then the scrollable control, which is going to be the just the typed control. And then container base, I feel like, no, that's fine. Okay. The other thing is we do have a control resize, so I'm actually going to take this and move it once more, because we also need to recalculate on resize. And so I think I'm good with leaving this stuff here for resize. All we need to do, I think, is just call recalculate states and then typed control. Okay. And then KUI scrollable can scroll Y. We don't actually have to call this from here anymore. We can actually just shortcut it. So instead of calling that function, we can actually just, right? That's really more for external stuff. So Y visible is that. We can also do X visible once we set that up. But there we are. Okay, so now that we have the max offset, we also need to check. We need to make sure that the current offset is clamped to that, right? So if we have a window that's, kind of large, right? And we shrink that window, but we've scrolled, we need to make sure that the offset is still valid within this max, right? So I don't know, vec2, I don't know if we actually have a max for vec2 or not. I don't recall if we wrote one. If we didn't, we probably ought to. Let's see. Compare distance. No. Didn't we have... We do have one for vector 3. So yeah, let's copy pasta this. Yeah, we don't have one. Okay. So let's see. We'll go up to right here. Might as well create this. Right? And so all this is, it's the same exact function, just minus the z-axis. So we just basically run min or max against, against the two vectors, right? Let's see, so return vec2 creates, oh, right, there's one more there. Okay. And then here, so 2, vector 2, one more, and minus the z. Okay. So, what this will allow us to do is essentially clamp it, right? So we want to say that basically let me think about that. How do I want to do that though? I'm going to need the minimum, not the max. So what we'll do is we have typed control offset equals and then vec2 min, right? And so that's going to be typed control offset, and we want to make sure that's within the typed control max offset, right? And so that'll just kind of clamp that there. Okay. So that'll fix the resize issue. What else is there? Okay. I think the only other thing is to update offset, right? So, or update based off of offset. So what we're going to do is instead of updating the transform directly, we're going to update offset. I think I guess we could just call this every single time and then do a k-transform position set. And so the transform itself is going to be a container base transform. And then the position is going to be vec3. And then it's going to be typed control offsets x, typed control offset y, and then 0 and z. And then that way, whenever we scroll, we should be bound to that. So whenever we do scroll y, instead of doing a direct translate here, we're going to just do typed control offset y plus equals amount, and then recalculate state typed control. Right? And then obviously for the x, it's going to be the same thing. And the good part about this is recalculate will make sure that that is clamped to a reasonable value. Okay. I think that might be it. Let's build, find out. Dr. Elliott, good to see you. How have you been? Olex the dev, how's it going? Another ASMR coding day. Yeah, probably. Let's see. A good song. Yeah, I do have some good songs in this playlist. I'm happy with that. Do you document as you go, or do you have documenting days? So here's the thing about documentation, right? Documentation is important. Premature documentation is the bane of existence for somebody trying to get stuff done, right? Because there are going to be, we're still like not even version 1.0 on this. And so documenting stuff now would be completely pointless because a lot of it's likely to change before we hit 1.0. Once we hit 1.0, there will be lots of writing documentation, I think. But until we actually hit that, I think it makes very little sense while things are radically changing. So right now, I don't document too much other than things like the build process as I go on and super important stuff like that, like how to get it up and running. You're supposed to be fast asleep. You're not there. Well, from like you are there though. These new window containers you would now work on, if you could drag them, they stay within the program canvas. Any intentions of an option to lift them off into a real separate window, drag along the desktop? So, no. Not yet, anyways. Not anytime soon. I do have some stuff built into the platform layer to support multiple windows, but I don't have like the renderer isn't set up to do that. And frankly, I don't know if I'm ever going to do that. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't tend to think so, but you never know. We'll see. Never say never, but C/C++ expect from a developer to be mistake-free in the development process. Yeah, I know. Right? If only. If only. Document everything when I start developing. Very helpful if your project gets crashed. I mean, yes and no, right? Like, I've documented some stuff before, and I wound up throwing it out because it was irrelevant in 6 months. So you spend all that time writing documentation, and then you wind up throwing it out. So it's a little bit premature, I would say, at this point. We've got some unused 236, 245, and 266. 236. Oh, right. We don't need these anymore because we just used typed control. What was the last one? 264. Right. Okay. Now let's see what this looks like. Okay, so we load up the editor. Oh, load up a level, then load up the editor. Let's go to the tree. We'll expand some of these things. And then we'll scroll down. Okay, so I can exceed the bounds there. Oh, I didn't check that, though. Why can I... That should be clamping it. Did I miss a step somewhere? So the offset being added to works fine. Let me make sure I wrote this min function correctly here. So yeah, we get the minimum of the x and then the minimum of the y, and we turn that as a new vector. So what did I miss here? Typed control offset x and y. Why are those? Why is that allowing a... Let me think about this for a second. So if we take the total height, I probably ought to just debug this, quite honestly. KY scrollable 187. All right. I'm going to run this first. And expand this out a little bit. All right, and now I'll put a breakpoint here, and let's just see what happens. So I'm going to scroll down on the mouse wheel. Get this out of the way. So the base bounds height is 610. The container is 765. Okay. So that should be 155 is the max offset. Okay. And then we're going to take the minimum, which right now is going to be a 0 offset. Oh, you know what? I didn't zero that out when I create the control. That's probably why. Because it starts off with garbage data. -5. Oh, wait, no. No, the -5 would have come from what I just did. So, oh, am I thinking about this backwards? When you scroll down, the offset needs to go negative. I have this backwards. This should be, this is fine. We should be getting the max between, wait, no, that doesn't sound right either. So the offsets, oh, the max offset, that's technically a min offset then. I'm thinking about it backwards. Okay, I was going to do this the other way around, but I've already kind of done it this way. So we need a min and a max offset, right? Max offset is technically going to be, well, actually max offset would technically be 0 because we're doing this backwards, right? So I don't think we actually need that. So let's call this min offset, just so that we're explicit. And then we actually need this to be a negative number. So we actually do have to swap these around. And I was wondering about this when I was putting it together, because we are scrolling down, which is technically a negative movement, if I'm thinking about it correctly. So let's take this and do that. And then for the min, let's see, we want to take the max of these two. Oops. And then this needs to be the min offset. And then this needs to be min offset is less than 0. Oops, is less than 0. Which means that we also are going to have to fix these other two functions here because they were also backwards. Oops. All right, and they need to be less than 0. Let's see if I have that right this time. I think I do. Okay. That's obviously got a foobar transform. Where did I go wrong? So recalculate, position set. Oh, the offset Y technically needs to be inverted as well. Documenting hire a junior dev for that, yeah. Or I mean, frankly, like when it comes to like code documentation, that's something that, you know, you could use Jippity for technically, right? In theory, you'd still have to check it though. Document first, then write the code. Yeah, that's worse than test-driven development. That would be anger-driven development in my case. One could argue any documentation is premature. I would say documentation is premature until you have a release. Then not. Then it's not. But how goes the UI? It's going. Just trying to figure out scrolling, which I think I had backwards at the moment. So just working that out in my head. Who thought of test-driven? I have no idea. No idea off the top of my head. Premature because you ain't writing one. Fair enough. Fair enough. You know, a lot of times when I think about writing documentation, you know, it just winds up being...
I said forget about it, cuz.
Been wanting to use that button for a while anyway. Anyway. That's what I think of documentation. All right, so... why was this... Yeah, like how do you test something you haven't developed? Exactly, right? I write code, then pause for documentation. I mean, you can, right? Like it depends on what you're doing too. Like for something like this, it's very premature. But there are some instances where you have to write the documentation ahead of time. Things like when you're dealing with like healthcare software and you have like government regulations that you have to go through and stuff and processes you have to follow. Then you're stuck doing it. But that's because the people that come up with those processes aren't developers themselves. All right, let me debug this because I have a feeling. So let's go to recalculate. I'm gonna do right there. So scroll that. Okay, so bounds height 610. The container is 495. Okay, so we should have... Oh. We're zeroing it out here, aren't we? Aren't we? No, wait, no, we're not. Because I changed that to max. Wait a minute. That should be negative. So we want the... Did I get this backwards again? So the base bounds height minus the container height. Oh, right, because I don't have anything expanded. That's why. But I can't expand it because I can't see the controls. So that's cool. I don't know if I have to scroll up or down for that, but it's just not doing the thing. Let me see. What is the... Okay, so we don't have an offset on X, which is good. So the offset here is the vec2 max between the offset itself and the minimum offset. Right. That makes sense. So why is my transform so far off then? Oh. What? It's like all the way off to the right then. How did we get that? How did we land there? $500 minus $500, that should be 0. So where did the X offset come into play? Why is that? Huh? Did I copy pasta something here? I don't think so. I don't even have the scroll bars available. Let me see if... What do I have backwards here? It's going to be something stupid, I know it. So min offset, and then we clamp offset. Let me just pull up. Let me pull up these two. Oops. And these two, so I don't have to keep hovering. And trying to make sense out of this. So, the minimum offset, that should be negative 115, I think. Oh, right. Yeah, because we haven't expanded the thing. So, offset, what did I do here? So the offset itself, I don't understand how the offset here got so far off. Right, like if I set this to 0, and then disable my breakpoint, I'm going to get rid of these other ones. And disable these guys. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so it does bottom out at one point, but it looks like it bottoms out at the difference, not where I was expecting it to. I see. Okay. UI is coming up on my to-dos. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just like we gotta do it. Just did a huge shader renderer refactor to use a single descriptor set for everything. Must be nice. No documentation on my watch. Yeah. Don't always write documentation, but when I do, I use ChatGPetto, Dos Equis dude. I love it, Spiro. It's funny. I read it in my mind with that voice, too. TDD is useless for complex visual products such as games. 100%, yes. Agreed. Not sure if you saw my Discord message. Got a TI 99-4A. Got to do the setup to do some assembler with... Wait, on stream with... Oh, that's pretty cool. When are you going to do that, Dr. Elliott? I'll try to tune in if I'm able. Watched some early Kohi videos today. You had short hair. Did you grow long hair as a contraweight to your beard so your head doesn't tilt? That's hilarious. Yes, that's exactly why I did it. No, when I started the Kohi series, I did have short hair. I'm trying to actually think. Yeah, I grew it out. And then about halfway through the series, I cut it off and donated it. And now I've grown it out again. And at some point, I'll be cutting off and donating it again. Have you heard about a new version of Gregory's book? I have not. Is he publishing a new version? It's been quite a few years, I think. All right. So why? Oh, and it's still allowing the scroll even though we haven't expanded supposedly beyond. Okay. Yeah, that's not right. Oh, interesting. It is right when we have the right amount of stuff expanded. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So when we expand this, then we can scroll it to where it needs to be. But if we're not able to scroll, we should probably why isn't that getting caught by this? So that should be if these are zeroed out. Oh, wait a minute, they're not zeroed out. That's why. So if that's, I think I have these backwards again. Let me think about this. So the minimum offset needs to be negative. So that means that we always want a negative number for that. Meaning we should take whatever result of this is should either be negative or if it's positive, it gets zeroed out. This should be K-min. Right, because if it's above 0, it should be zeroed out. I think that's half the problem right there. I had it right the first time. I had half of it right the first time and half of it wrong. I still don't think that that's the entire fix, but that's certainly a hell of a lot better. Okay. I can still scroll it, though, which is wrong. But this stuff is at least working now. And I think ground cube 2 is the last. Right, okay. So is ground cube 2 the last control that we have here? Yes, it is. Okay, so when all this stuff is expanded, we can now go all the way to the bottom and it'll stop us as it should. Always at ground cube 2. Okay. So that means the minimum is working correctly. So now the maximum offset technically should be 0. So, that means this is working. But also what we really need is we need a clamp. Right? Because we want to clamp it between a min and a max. Don't we have... We have a vector 4 clamp. Do we not have... How do we have a vector 4 clamp and not even a vector 3 clamp? Sure. Okay. Oh, and that's not how I would need that to work, actually. These should be called clamp scalar because it sets all the elements the same thing as opposed to... yeah, that's not the version I need anyways. Let me see. Is this actually being used anywhere? It is. Debug. Oh, color set. All right, I'm going to rename this because that's not right. That should be called clamp scalar. And then this should be clamped scalar, right? And then realistically what we should have, and I could just copy these to the other ones, right? So we can do clamp here. And this needs to be vec4 min, and vec4 max. And then for each one of those elements, I would do a clamp of that one, elements sub I, elements sub I. Yes, that makes sense. Okay. All right, so vec4, and then this is just going to clamp it to the elements sub I, elements sub I. Whoops. Not that one. Okay, so we have clamped, and then we have clamp, and then we have clamped. So one of them provides a copy, the other works directly against a pointer. So we're going to do the same thing. And this is going to be a vector 4, a vector 4. Right, now I can take these. Actually, I should probably take all 4 of these. Let's just put them in for vector 3 and vector 2. I'm actually shocked that I don't have these yet. So let's do vec3 compare. And we'll put this right after that, because that's where it was for vec4. So let's see, 3 elements. Okay, and then again, whoops, 3 elements. Oops, 3, 3, 3, and 3. I suppose I could do a find and replace on this, right? But like, I feel like this is a little bit less error prone because I can actually see everything that I am changing. And then vector 3 and return vector 3. Okay, so I think that's something else. Okay, so vec2 compare, and we'll put this right here. And so this will just have to be 2. Our math library is just constantly growing. I'm always adding stuff to it. Let's see. So we'll go down here. That one. Oops. That one. That one. That one. And then one more. This needs to be a 2. Did I get that on the other one? Yes. Okay, and then we have K clamp for obviously floats. Got one more here. Okay. All right, so now what we really need to do is this, instead of using max, needs to be clamp. We want clamped, actually. And so we want the minimum, I think it was minimum first and then max, yeah. So we want min offsets, and then we want vec 3, 0. Or wait, we're using vec 3s or vec 2s? Vec 2, 0. Okay. I think that should do it. Oh, it didn't rename it in the other file. Perfect. Okay. Debug box 3D. This needs to be clamp scalar and sphere 3D. This is going to be there. That's a lot more consistent with the other API calls. Got some parts I got to wait on, some converters to hook it up to a modern TV, and then I need to find either a final GROM 99 or an actual editor assembler module. Oof. That sounds like quite the undertaking. Be interesting to see what you come up with once you get all that working, though. Let's see. Last one was published in 2019. Yeah, that sounds about right. Game Engine Architecture 2-volume set, 4th edition, April 10th, 2026. Really? Oh, I'll be dipped. I do see apparently the book got so thick that it's now 2 books. Okay, I didn't even know that. I wonder when. Wait, 2026. That's not here yet. When was this released? Okay. I may wind up having to buy that. Although, oof. But, you know, I've referenced the other one so many times that it's been worth every penny. Generating shadow maps is that Peter Panning something that cannot be avoided. It can be avoided with shadow bias and using geometry that has a little bit of a thickness to it. You know, there's ways to work around it for sure. Publication date April 10th, 2026. Oh yeah. There it is right there. So I guess it's not out yet then. But yet I can order it. Free delivery Friday. Oh, okay. I see. April 10th. I didn't see that right away. Okay. So it'll be out in April. Okay. Well, I'll be getting that. I'll be definitely getting that. Because the 3rd edition has been, I mean, I'm always pulling that thing off my shelf. In fact, actually, it's not even on my shelf. It's here on my desk. Right? I reference this thing all the time on stream. Okay. Let's see. Did I build this yet? I got distracted. Let me see if that clamp does the thing. So expand this, expand this, expand this. Scroll down. Okay, we can't scroll past that point. Scroll up. We can't scroll past that point. Perfect. So we have that working. That is exactly what we need to happen. And the same thing will happen with buttons. It's clamped. Beautiful. Okay, so I really need to get rid of some of the console noise, but that's neither here nor there. So that works. So the next aspect of this, I suppose, would be probably the little thumb button that goes there, right? And I think we'll get it. I think what we'll do is we'll get it visually correct first, and then worry about being able to drag it up and down and so forth. If I even bother, to be completely honest. But it would be nice to sort of have that. Like if I expand this window, yeah, see the scroll bar does go away. So that's good. And I don't think I have enough elements here to actually make that. Okay, so yeah, the resize logic works too. If I scroll this down and I resize this, it does look like it does update the position of that accordingly. Yeah, it's not off or anything like that. So perfect. Okay. So that works exactly like we expect, which is good. Now we can go into the scrollable at the top, and we can add in our final button. And we are going to use these other buttons for the scroll. In fact, yeah, I think for right now, I'm just going to use a regular button for this, but we're going to be changing them to like a custom button here in a bit. So let's look at, I guess we can go to, how do I want to do this? It's going to be part of the scroll bar. All right, so we have the increment button, the decrement button, the thumb button. Oh, I already added that here. We just haven't actually created it. Perfect. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy pasta this. And we are not going to have an on-click. In fact, I'm just going to take the on-click right off of it. It's just going to be purely visual for right now. And we're going to say, let me think about this. So scroll Y name. So we're going to do scroll Y thumb for that. This is going to be thumb button. And then this is going to be actually just that. Position set, I guess, doesn't really matter right now because we're going to handle that and recalculate. But let's see, the X does matter. But I guess we'll go ahead and set this minus the scroll bar width times 2. Right, and what that'll do is it'll bump it down below that top button. We don't need text for this button, so we're just going to do the standard create here. We don't need text on that one. And we're not going to worry about the height just yet. We will handle that soon as well. Okay, so thumb button. Okay, I think we're good there. So I think what we'll do we'll use I feel like there's a there's two pieces to this, right? There's two components. There's the percentage moved, and then there's the percentage it has to grow to fill the space. So I guess probably the first thing that we would want to do is let's get the offset percent, right? So we'll say offsets. Oh, thank you for the Prime. I appreciate that. I'm gelling. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much for the 4 months of Prime. Appreciate that support. Thank you. You missed that there's a hardcover edition of Game Engine Architecture for $400. What? That was softcover? Oh my god. It's paperback. I have the hardcover edition of the 3rd edition.
You dingus.
Oi. That's got to be a tax write-off or something. I did miss that completely. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Dazzle Software, how are you doing? Welcome. Don't know why these books are so expensive. They're expensive to print, quite honestly. Printing is, like, stupidly expensive, especially if you wind up having color, which I don't think the 3rd edition does, and I don't know if the 4th edition will, but, like, yeah. I mean, how many pages are in this? This has got, what is it, like 1,200 pages or something like that?
Good to see you, man. Was that to update to the Game Engine book?
Dustin, my dudes, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Yes, it was an update to the Game Engine book. Yep, it was. And thank you very much, by the way, for the Tier 1. I really appreciate that. Yeah, there's a new version of this coming out in April. I didn't even know about it, actually. Somebody in chat pointed it out. So I'll be getting that, although... Man, that's really expensive for the hardcover. For something I reference all the time, I have a hard time getting paperback, but I don't know. I may have to in this case. $400 is quite a lot to swallow. Just chilling after a long day at work. Crunch time. Yeah, I get that. I would get my job to buy that for me. Yeah, I mean, if only, right? If only. So let's do percentage, right? So we're going to do percentage offset. We're going to have to do percent Y first, then we'll do percent X later on. It's going to be the same exact thing. We're just going to have to, do it again. So what we want is we want to take the offset. So typed control offset X. And we want to divide that by the typed control min offset. Oops, I want Y, not X. Dingus. Oops. Y. There we go. Let me think of that for a second. So the offset's always going to be negative. The min offset's always going to be negative. So we're going to actually want to swap this. We're going to want to flip the sign on this. So we'll invert that. And so that's going to give us the percentage that we've actually scrolled within the available scrollable area. So what we can then take from that is that's actually where we can actually place the control, right? So we want... Do we have a linear scale in here anywhere? I thought we had a function for that. Oops. Really? We don't have... Oh, this will work. Sure. All right. So what we're going to want is we're going to want to scale this to the min position of the scroll bar and the max position of the scroll bar where the button can actually sit. So let's put this here. Obviously, we're going to have to rename some of this stuff. So we're going to call this position Y. And let's see, this is going to wind up being... This is going to wind up being... %y minus. So inner radius is going to be the minimum. So F32 min y is going to be equal to... And we'd actually calculated that up here. So that's going to be this. Or wait a minute, is that going to be... Wait a minute, that's the increment button. That's going to be... And then 0. That's going to be the maximum, actually, that I want. This is going to be the max y. All right, so we have F32 min y is actually just going to be, is actually just going to be this. Right, so the position y is going to wind up being the minimum max applied thusly. Let's see, container base. That is going to be not container base. It's going to be typed control base height. Right, so this has to be based off of the actual control, the containing control height. And then we can do basically this. I'm going to actually have to get, though. So we're going to call this y thumb base. And that is going to be the typed control scroll bar y thumb buttons base. And then here we're going to do position sets y thumb base. And the x is going to be its current x, I guess. Which I think we're just saying was 0. Size x. Oh, right. I'm glad I didn't just assume 0. That would have put it all the way on the left side of the screen. Do we want... Oops. New line. Right, so we want F32 pause X. And this is going to be container base bounds x minus scroll bar width. Okay, so now we should be able to say pause x and pause y. I don't know that I've gotten that 100% correct, but did we not? Where is it? What did we miss? So we create it here. Scroll by name. We add as a child to the scrollable. Bounds height minus. Oh, do I have that wrong? I might have that wrong. No, I don't think I do. Nope, that's okay. Did I scale this wrong then? I'm not entirely convinced that this is correct. So let's see, we have the %y minus the min. %y minus the min. Okay. And then divided by max y minus the min. That seems right to me. I feel like I've probably got a sign flipped somewhere here. I think I've got that correct for... I'm just double checking my math here. So it should be... Unless %y is wrong. Let me debug it. Let's put a breakpoint here. Okay, so %y. Oh, it's negative. That's right off the bat, that's wrong. Cool. Negative 40. Negative 1. Oh. Oh. I don't need to flip the sign here. Still don't see it though. So let's go ahead and debug again. So the percentage now is it's saying we're 25% as far as we can scroll. So if our offset is negative 40 and the maximum we can offset is 155, that's about right. Okay, so that's correct. The min y is 30, right? So that's going to be 30 from the top. And then the max Y is going to be 550. So we need a number that is 25% essentially between 30 and 550, which I thought is what this was going to give me. I've got that way wrong. Okay, what did I do here? Some dingus-oriented programming. Okay, so if we have... So if we do... Let me just go down here to the debug console. So if we do this, right, this is ultimately the difference, the entire range of where we can move in between. So it should be... Oh, wait a minute. Why are we subtracting this? That's not right. It should be, if I'm thinking about this correctly. This should be, let's actually just, so our range is this. So we want min
You dingus.
plus and then I think we want %y times that. Is that right? We take the range. This is the range, the entire range of space that we can move. We multiply that by the percentage of how far we're moved. And then we offset that by the minimum at the top. I think that's right. Let me stop the application here. Diamond, good to see you. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. Just checked out Jason's Amazon page, and he's actually releasing both Volume 1 and 2 at the same time. Rep my annual book purchase. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be buying that when it comes out in April. Much to the chagrin of my wallet. Now, why isn't that still shut? Wait a minute. Okay. Breakpoint again. Okay. So the percent that we're moving is... That doesn't seem right. 60%. $350. But I would say 350 is 60% of that, so that is correct. I'm just now questioning if this is actually correct. So ultimately the Y position is 350. That should be fine. What about the X position? Oh, negative 30. This is really the problem right here. So bounds X. Oh, this is bounds X minus... I'm using bounds X instead of bounds width. Right. What a dongus. Whoops. All right. I'm going to turn off the breakpoint And run again. Maybe this time we'll get it. Or not. .470. So the bounds width is 500. That's the width of, wait. That's not 500 wide. That doesn't seem right. That's not 500 pixels wide, even on a high DPI screen. That's not. Typed control, scrollable. I mean, I guess it is. So 470 on the X, 219 on the Y. Why is that not showing? Okay, so we're getting the transform for the thumb button, and then we set the position to that. Have I done something? Let me see. Let me look at it one more time. Oops. Create, rather. So when we create this button, what are we using as the, so it's size X minus scroll bar width. Width and height. Yeah. Width and height. Okay. So if it's correct for those buttons, base bounds height. And we have base bounds height is 610. Scroll bar width, so we're subtracting 60 from that to make sure that we're far up enough. What am I missing? Oh, wait a minute. Why is, wait. Let me see something. Out of my own. These should be relatively the same. So I'm just going to restart. Right, so size X, which is 500, minus scroll bar width, which is 30, 470. Okay, and then the height is 200. Minus 60. Okay, so the initial height for that, I guess, doesn't make sense, but I feel like this is going to be something very, very stupid. So recalculates. We do set. I'm honestly not seeing why this isn't working. Get rid of that. I know that's rubbish. Have you tried Ghost TTY with shaders? No. I've just been using WesTerm for so long at this point that I'm probably just going to stick with it because it doesn't really break. Thank you for the follow, Totari Cake. Appreciate that. Now you've referenced the third edition a lot, so you're expecting to learn anything new with the fourth. I'm only about halfway through the book, so I'm a little hesitant. Yeah, that's the thing. I do recommend that one all the time. So just the fact that it's 2 volumes, you know, this one is this thick and it's just 1 volume, and that one's 2 volumes, says that he's probably expanded it quite a bit. So yeah, I would imagine there's probably lots of new stuff in there. I expect to learn some stuff from it for sure. Love to get a PDF one. Yeah, see, I can't read books like that. I have to have them in paper. Maybe that's just because I'm old, but happy that you don't use AI for problem solving. Yeah, I mean, it might be useful in a situation like this, right? But like, I feel like I'm like right at the cusp of it. I haven't flipped any of these. All right, let me do a sanity check here. Right, so I'm just going to do a quick position Y equals 470. Or actually, I'm going to do position Y equals 0. And I'm going to do position X equals 0. Right, and what that should do is it should put it in like the upper left of the panel, ideally. Kill this breakpoint. And that one. And it has not. Oh, maybe because... Oh, I think I know what the issue is. Oh, dingus. Dingus. I think I know what the issue is. Pretty sure I know exactly what the issue is. I'm not setting it to visible. It's created invisible by default. And we set visibility, actually, right here. It's been right in front of my dingus face the whole time. It's there, probably been in the correct position, just not visible. Let's see. There it is. I mean, the offset's wrong, but... All right. Yeah, so that's a thing. Let's see if it offsets correctly. Oh, you know what? We don't have much of a scroll area here, do we? Let me expand this a little bit. Yeah, so see, it moves along. Its X offset is wrong, but the button moves as it's supposed to. Let's fix that real quick. So the position X is going to be, I think we said that had to be bounds width, scroll bar width. Do we have to do ×2 on that as well? That seems wrong. Minus scroll bar width, minus scroll bar width, size X. Why are the other two fine? Container base. Oh, that's container base. That's why. It needs to be type control base. That's why. All right, expand these. Oh, that's still not right. But why? Position X, base bounds width minus. I mean, I'm sure that the scroll bar width times 2 would probably do it. I just don't understand why I'm having to do that. Because I didn't have to do that for these other controls. Width sets. So we're setting on the same width. I mean, it's this same thing here and here and here. Why would that be any different? Why am I not seeing it? Okay, you know what? For now, let's just put this in and see. To at least get it correct. Okay, there we go. So now when we expand all of these out, as we scroll, our scroll bar does the thing. Right, and this works with the buttons also. And it's automatically snapped to where it should be and all that good stuff. So the only real thing left is, if we even want to, we could make the size of this scroll bar, the thumb button. We can increase that with the size of this. Though now that I'm looking at it, I kind of wonder if we should even bother or just leave it like this, quite honestly. Because this works, right? So I'm super happy with that. That's pretty good progress, I think. We got some fine tuning on a few things to do, but I think even if we resize this, let me actually scroll to like, I don't know, a third of the way down and resize the window and see if it adjusts. It does. So as we increase the resolution here, see we're almost, see how that scroll bar works when we almost have all the space we need, but not quite? Awesome. So that looks pretty good, I think. I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. So got it in the nick of time. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll get this checked in. But yeah, that's going to do it for tonight's stream. So I've got to figure out what we're going to do tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to bother with the click and drag of this. It might be easy, it might not be. I don't know if I want to spend another stream on scrolling stuff. I think I'd rather get some new controls in place because they're really there's some things in the editor that I'd like to be able to do. Namely, I'd like to be able to turn off some of this debug display, right, without having to like go into code to do it. It'd be nice to be able to just turn some of this stuff on and off. And so it'd be nice to have like some checkboxes down here or something to be able to do that. And we have the assets now, we just have to build out the controls. So let's see. Kind of nitpicky, but you know what's making the window go solid black for a second or two before rendering again? Yes, I'm doing that intentionally because there's lots of issues cross-platform with resizing and recreating the swap chain too quickly. And so you can actually get yourself into a situation where you're trying to recreate the swap chain so quickly because of all the rapid fire resize events that it winds up crashing. So yeah, I just don't do that for now. I'll figure it out at some point, but for now I just I decided not to do that. It's not a problem when you're at 60 frames a second, but it can be a problem when you're at, like if I were to turn off the, let's see, if I were to turn off VSync, then it's just, you know, that much more opportunity for that to go wrong, essentially. Speaking of which, I don't think this is going to be a problem with the VSync on, but I should probably just test that real quick. Yeah. So yeah, it runs fine at 800 frames a second. So, all right. Never want to touch the swap chain resizing ever again. It works. I'm not touching it. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. I actually just removed a bunch of code in there that I found I didn't really need to, which was very funny. Which is actually how I was able to speed it up to what it is now. But like, I think at this frame rate, like I wonder, I mean, it's pretty quick. It seems to work fine. Anyway, let me find somebody to raid. And I want to just say a big thank you to everybody here that has joined, followed along, supported, all those good things. Thank you guys so much for that. If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate a follow, either on the YouTube side or the Twitch side. Either side is greatly appreciated, or if you're so inclined, both. I am trying to grow the channels, so would very much appreciate that. I'm just searching the list here for somebody to raid, hoping to find something that is somewhat related to what we're doing. I don't know, though. It's kind of a coin toss sometimes. Yeah, and thank you guys over on the YouTube side as well. Much appreciated. Matt, Matt Osgard, good to see you over there as well. Let's see. There's gotta be. I don't know, actually. Bear with me 1 second while I find somebody to raid. Still scrolling through the list. Okay. I think I see who I'm going to go with. Let's go with... Crap, the person I was going to raid, I think, is like AFK at the moment. All right, well, he's only been up... Oh, I see what it is. He just started streaming. All right, we're going to raid Jitspo. Looks like he's active now, so that's good. All right, thank you guys again so much for joining, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow night for stream. All right, thank you again, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.